Hey guys, Smith here with Minute Maintenance, coming at you on another gloomy and windy day here in Iowa. Now, when you go to start your truck in the morning, what's the one thing you certainly don't want to hear? You don't want to hear it struggle to not start. So let's go ahead and pop the hood and figure out what this 2013 F-150 is doing to us today. Alright guys, so what we have here is a 2013 Ford F-150 FTX Lariat by Tuscany. So let's go ahead and hop on inside the cab here, shut this door. Now, when you go to start your truck in the morning and it doesn't start, that can be one of three things. You need three things to make an engine run. Any motor, lawnmower, motorcycle, truck, doesn't matter, tank. You need three things. You need spark, you need fuel, and you need air. All right, to get spark, that means spark plugs, that means electricity. To get fuel, well, you need electricity for that as well as gas in the tank, so make sure you're filling it up. I know gas prices are high, but I promise you there's gas in the tank. And then you need air. It needs to be able to breathe. So one of the first things you want to do to try to diagnose what the issue is if you get your key out of your pocket, I don't know why I'm sitting on it, get your key out of your pocket, and then what you can do is put the key in the ignition, turn it to the run position. Don't actually crank it over. Turn to the run position and then listen. Use your ears to listen. The gas tank is located back here under the back seat. What you want to do is you want to listen for a whining noise. I'm going to simulate it here with my vocal cords here, like zzz, a buzzing noise. That's the fuel pump turning on and sucking gas in. So make sure your radio's off, make sure your door's shut, and try to ignore any dinging coming on from over here. Let's see if we can hear that noise. Now, I certainly didn't hear it. I seem to have full power. It says I have gas in the tank, so that's good. Let's go ahead and crank her over. Nothing. So my initial thought is it could possibly be a fuel-related issue, but we're going to go ahead, we're going to pop the hood and make sure we do have enough power. What I'm not hearing is the fuel pump activating. Another way you can tell if the fuel pump's activating or not is you can actually open your gas cap and have someone try to start the car while you put your ear near the fill area of the gas cap. You can hear the fuel pump activating then, or crawl underneath the truck where the gas tank is and try to listen then. Again, have them try to put it in the run position, see if you can hear the fuel pump activating. That's to tell us, is the fuel pump sucking fuel in? Oh, I didn't hear anything right now, so right now that's a check in the no box for the fuel pump activating. But let's pop the hood and see. Well, let's check the battery. Is there even enough power to run the fuel pump? All right, guys, so here we are under the hood of this 2013 Ford F-150. And as you've seen in other videos, what we're going to need to test the battery is our handy dandy multimeter. This thing's coming in lots of use here lately. Let's go ahead and turn this on, set it up so you guys can see it. All right, and when using a multimeter for testing volts, you want to be over here in the V section, V line, dot, dot, dot. Okay, there's a bunch of different V's here. Okay, but you want the V with the hard line. You see 200 amp, 220, 200, 1000. We know this is a 12 volt battery. And so we're testing for 12 volts. So what you actually want to be is on the 20, because if you're on the 2, it's not going to read up to 12 volts. You want to be able to read within the range in which the electricity you're expecting. So I switch it over to the 20 mark. I put my positive lead on the positive side. I take my negative lead, touch to the negative, and it says I have over 12 volts, so I should have enough standby power to actually engage the fuel pump. But let's go ahead and make sure we don't have a drop off somewhere, that there's possibly a split wire somewhere, that there's a wiring harness loose, that there's some sort of issue that when I actually go to try to start it, that all my power drops off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my leads so they don't fall off, and I'm going to string the meter through the hood so I can actually watch from inside the cab. All right, guys, and here we are back in the cab of the truck. Now it says, again, I have well over 12 volts, plenty standby power to start the truck. So what I'm going to do is put my key in the ignition and try to start it, and we'll see if my voltage drops below 10 volts. I know I might be having a battery related issue, and that's why it's not engaging the fuel pump. So let's go ahead and take a look here. And it drops down to 11.38, 36, 35, well above that 10 volt threshold. So I know it's not an electricity issue. I know my battery is good. I know that I have enough power to start the fuel pump, to start the engine if it was going to work. But again, I'm not hearing my fuel pump turn on. So at this point, if the battery's good, you're not hearing the fuel pump turn on, next thing you do, guys, don't just assume it's the fuel pump. Don't get into panic mode. Check your fuses and your relays. That's what they're there for. Your fuses and your relays to control the fuel pump relay, the fuel shutoff, all those. Look through your manual. Those are there to prevent an actual electrical surge from happening and burning out your fuel pump. Those are there to protect the electrical systems, what fuses do. If something is amiss, moisture, it's getting too much power from a short somewhere, it blows out the fuse as opposed to blowing out the actual electronic. So let's go ahead and pop into the engine compartment fuse, because I have a sneaky suspicion I know what the issue is. All right, guys, here we are back at the engine compartment. Now this is your main fuse panel. Now in here, you got these two clips here, one there. Just pull those tabs and she pops right up. Now in here, if you're looking through your diagram, whether you looked up your fuse box diagram online or you actually have the hard manual in your glove box and you're flipping through that, you'll find out that number 27, number right here, which would relate to this fuse right here, on these F150s, I believe it's between 2010 and 2016, those F150s, these fuses are notorious for blowing out. This number 27 fuse here, 20 amp fuse, is what controls my fuel pump relay. It's what allows it to actually power on to do its job. So good thing to check, guys. If everything else is checking out and you're thinking it might be a fuel pump issue, before you go online and start buying fuel pumps, check all your fuses and relays. There's a couple different ones, but this is the main one that tends to go out. So what you're gonna need is either an actual fuse puller, needle nose pliers, or some tweezers, and you go ahead and grab a hold of that fuse. Let's go ahead and yank that sucker out. And right off the bat, look at that, guys. You can see it's melty. You can see it's broken. That is not a healthy looking fuse. You want to look inside and see, hey, are the metal contacts fully attached? But you can just tell by looking at this thing, it is melted out. Now, on this exact same channel, guys, if you flip back a couple videos for the Fuse 27 replacement, the other half a minute maintenance, Derek actually did a very detailed, very awesome video about how to replace this, which Ford has a kit where you take the 27 fuse location, you actually move it up to and bump it up to one of these bigger 20 amp relays. Watch that video, order the kit, guys. I was obviously too lazy and too cheap to have done it yet myself, and now I have to replace this fuse, and my truck didn't start today. Thankfully, it wasn't an emergency, but guys, it's better to get that taken care of sooner rather than later. Those kits are very inexpensive. Watch that video. Derek does a phenomenal job of walking you through step by step how to replace this fuse, but you can just tell looking at that fuse that thing is just roached. It is garbage. Let's go ahead and grab this 10 amp fuse that was sitting right next to it and do a side-by-side comparison. Look at that. You can immediately tell the difference between those two fuses. Look at, you can see the plastic's all melted and garbage. Look at how fresh and new that one's looking. All right, and this is actually, now that I'm looking at the design of it, this is actually a newer fuse. This one is OEM. This is actually a newer fuse and it's broken. So this fuse is blown out before. So I'm definitely gonna order that kit, and I'm definitely gonna follow along with Derek's video here on Minute Maintenance to get that taken care of. But now I know what my problem is. I know that the issue was that fuse itself. And another way, guys, if you're looking at your fuse and you're like, you know what, it still looks good to me, I'm not 100% sure that's the issue, what you can do is look through your fuse box diagram, find another 20 amp fuse. Okay, what does that one control? Is it a less important circuitry? Well, this one is actually kind of important, but just for testing purposes, because I don't have a spare 20 amp on me, I'm going to remove this 20 amp fuse because it's the same power size. I'm going to put it in the Fuse 27 location. Okay, and let's see if the truck is going to start now. All right, now we're back in the cab of the truck again. All I did was I took a 20 amp fuse from a different location. We're not driving anywhere, guys. We're not actually revving the engine or doing any power. All I'm doing is swapping that one fuse, putting it where I know the bad fuse is, the fuse that controls my fuel pump relay, just to solidify in my mind it's a fuse issue and not something else I need to delve further into at this moment. So let's go ahead and start the truck. And she's running. You see that? Now my fuel pump is actually working. So the issue was that fuse. It wasn't a $100 fuel pump. I don't have to worry about dropping the gas tank and having a second set of hands on hand so I can swap out the fuel pump. It was that fuse, and that problem is going to keep happening. It seems to happen on these trucks every 30 to 50,000 miles. They overheat and those fuses burn out. Fuse 27 replacement kit. There's a video on this channel, guys. Order the kit, watch the video, get it done before you run into the same problem that I'm having. You can't drive your beloved truck today. All right, guys, one last tip, because I know this tends to happen on these vehicles as well. If that fuse turns out to be just fine, if swapping that fuse out didn't solve your problem, if you still have my fuel pump still isn't turning on, and you're thinking, you know what, it might actually be the fuel pump because my fuses are just fine. Well, if all the fuses check out and you're still not having any fuel, one thing you can do, and I highly suggest, guys, is come over here on the passenger side, all right? You see this here, this little kicker area? Well, you see how dirty it is. People's feet kick this when they're climbing into this big old truck. They're sticking their feet up here, they're kicking at it, and when they're sitting down, kicking around, what that can do is, here, let me go ahead and turn my light on so that you guys can have immediate visual of what I'm trying to say. When you pull this panel off back here, and you come to the back over here, right down here. You see this? This is the main wiring harness that actually goes back to the fuel pump. So it takes electricity from the front and it sends it to the back. Sometimes when you're kicking around here, the force of it can actually cause this thing to jar itself loose and this tab to push downwards that way and disconnect itself. So that's another thing you can look into, guys. You just come over here, this kicker plate, make sure that everything is nice and taut and tucked in the way it needs to. Since we're on the topic of fuel pumps not working or possibly trying to figure out, do I have a fuel related issue? Another thing you can do, guys, if you're trying to figure out, do I have a fuel related issue? What you can do is you can loosen up this band or remove the whole breather box itself up here, which would involve loosening up this band. This bolt here, one more just like it, down here where my finger is, and then one more band right back there. And if you loosen those up, you can actually remove this whole breather box. You'll have full access to your throttle body. And what you can do is, while this takes two people, you have one person in the truck trying to start it, pushing on the gas to open up the throttle, and then you can spray some starting fluid in there. If you're adding fuel to it through a can of starting fluid and it starts, you know that you have a fuel pump issue. You know you have a fuel supply issue. If it's running off of the foreign starting fluid being sprayed directly into it, that means that it's not getting gas from the gas tank to the engine. So that's just another tip or trick you guys can use to solidify in your own minds that, hey, it is a fuel pump issue. Delve a little further. But first and foremost, check your battery, make sure you have enough power, check your fuses. And as you saw in this one, the issue is this fuse number 27. Now I'm gonna go ahead and swap it out, put it back where it belongs, put a brand new 20 amp fuse in there for right now, and then I'm gonna follow along with Derek's video here on Minute Maintenance, and I'm gonna do the official kit and get it done the right way so I never have this problem again. All right, guys, and there you go. In a couple of minutes, we were able to walk through the proper way to diagnose a bad fuel pump, a no fuel type situation. Again, when you started the truck, it seemed like everything was working just fine, but it didn't want to start. It was a fuel related issue. We weren't getting fuel supply from the gas tank to the actual motor. And again, I'll walk through, check your fuses, check your battery, check the relays, check the kicker plate on the passenger side. Did somehow someone's big gorilla feet in there kicking around and made the actual wire harness come loose? Walk through those. And if it's your fuse 27, guys, do the right thing, all right? Spend the 30, 40 bucks, buy the replacement kit, watch the video here on Minute Maintenance. I'm not trying to self-promote, but it's a hell of a good video, guys. And had I followed along with what Derek was doing a couple months ago, I wouldn't be in this position today, but it gave me an excuse to rock the Triton motor in my Ford Expedition, so that's all right. So I'm gonna head off to the auto parts store, get myself a brand new 20 amp fuse, and order myself that fuse 27 replacement kit and get that taken care of. Please, guys, like, subscribe, drop any comments or questions you guys might have. Are you guys working on any vehicles of your own? Are you having some issues? Reach out. We'll do the best we can to help you out. And as always, guys, find a minute out of your day to do some maintenance. We'll catch you next time.